Good evening to all of the attendees, and good morning to all my fellow speakers joining from the U.S. Welcome to the webinar on Seceon with Revolutionary OTM Solution. My name is Lalit Chinde. I primarily head strategy and business development at Seceon. Before we begin, just a few logistics. If you have questions during the presentation, please type those in the chat window. We will answer all of those at the end of the presentation during Q&A. So please keep sending those questions throughout the presentation. So today, security protection has shifted from traditional perimeter-based approach to more intelligence-driven seek and kill kind of methodology. Gone are those days when organizations could protect itself by guarding the perimeter by leveraging spam blockers, antivirus software, and so on. Almost every organization knows these days that no one is immune to getting hacked, and that's in spite of having some of the best security mechanisms in place. And this is happening because the hackers themselves have advanced a lot. They are using much more sophisticated tools that are easily available to them, and the attacks are getting smarter, more frequent, can proliferate much faster. And this was evident from one of the ransomware attacks that happened recently, WannaCry and also NotPetya immediately afterwards. So today's silo cybersecurity solutions are just, not working well. They're not providing the help to stop these kind of attacks. By virtue of deploying more and more products, you're not safer. But on the contrary, what is happening is the CIOs and CISOs are getting over-alerted with copious amount of information coming to them. So there's alert fatigue going on in the industry where many a times you're getting too many false alarms, and you weed through those, and a lot of time is getting spent on those, and it's very difficult to find the actual threat. It is literally becoming that finding needle in the haystack. So, and every time you come up with a new tool, it's kind of increasing your cost, not at just the CapEx level, but also at the OpEx level in order to make it usable, in order to make it work together with other product tools and so on. And that's the, the problem that the industry is facing right now. But most important thing to note is, all these silo solutions that you could be deploying to get that comprehensive cybersecurity is actually not providing you the comprehensive cybersecurity. It's it's much more difficult to get that using the silo products. And the most important thing is they are not providing you the remediation that is required in real time, just mainly because of the human factor involved in making sure all these tools work together and can actually stop the attack. So how do we define the comprehensive cybersecurity? And what does enterprise or small, medium-sized businesses or MSSPs need to provide that comprehensive cybersecurity? So definitely, provide proactive protection attack against this evolving attack vector is something that is required, and that should definitely be able to handle a lot of the unknown threats. Now, what we mean by unknown threats is the threats caused by unknown vulnerabilities in the software that we run. There are several unknown vulnerabilities. When they are known, we know how to stop those. But what about those that we don't know, and hackers utilize those? Those are the unknown threats that we are talking about. So it has to be a holistic solution that provides end-to-end visibility. So one of the key mantras that we have followed in cybersecurity is, if you can't see the traffic, you cannot protect yourself from detecting threats in that traffic. So it needs to have that holistic visibility. It needs to be intelligent, data science driven. Definitely, we'll explore this topic in a lot more detail with our next panelist, Michael Crane. Finally, one of the other important thing is the automated remediation. Our follow-on panelist, Gregory Millis, will talk about that in length. So what is the use of detecting a threat in real time if you cannot, sort of remediate it in real time? So obviously, the tool has to remediate that as well in a real time. So with those certain requirements for comprehensive cybersecurity, let me bring in our next panelist, Michael Crane, to talk about the role of advanced data science in cybersecurity.
Good morning, everyone, or good evening. My name is Michael Crane. I'm the owner and founder of Solutions Granted, and we're going to talk a little bit about artificial intelligence in the cybersecurity space and machine learning today. This is nothing new. Machine learning has been around for quite some time. Predictive analytics, it is the math behind the science that is bringing it to our community today, that is allowing us to finally have a winning advantage against the bad guys and the attacks that are happening out there. So what is it specifically? If we look through the history of what mathematics has been providing to us and how this artificial intelligence and machine learning has come, if we go back to where we had law enforcement searching for, or government searching for bad guys, it was very, very difficult for us to go find them when we just had a picture and we were trying to match that picture to one person, and it became ineffective. So along came facial recognition technology, and with facial recognition technology, it was much easier to know 50, 60, 70, 100 different aspects of an individual, put that into a database, and then have the mathematics, have the machine learning, have the intelligence to know that if we are looking for this person, create that and make that the anomaly, we could allow the machines, we could allow the math to search through those databases very, very quickly and find what we were looking for. So in law enforcement, and what we have found in the science of genomics, and we have seen in our medicine, they had found that the human mind was only so fast and so strong, and we needed the machines to help us. And we have also found this today as we are combating cyber threats. To have a team of analysts looking through hundreds of millions of events that are happening every day, it becomes very ineffective. So now what you see is you start to see organizations that are no longer just hiring IT guys. They're hiring data scientists. They're hiring people with PhD in mathematics, these mathematicians, and they are leveraging the machine power that we have available to us today. They're leveraging the science and the algorithms that they are able to create with the processing power that has become available to us with the next generation processors, with the increased speed in the memory that we can take advantage of this. And it is fixing the problems and looking for the anomalistic behaviors and finding the needle in the haystack. If I look at how this has worked for my own organization, we have more than 110 million events that happen in our data center every 24 hours. For us to be able to search through that, to be able to find if there is a problem, to find what that problem may be, and allow the machines to act on our behalf with the right programming, with the right algorithms, with the right intelligence, it would take so many bodies to find it, and it would still not be found in a timely manner, and we would be very, very reactive. That is what has been wrong with the industry, and where we have tried to get away from is we have to stop being reactive to the fact and become proactive. That is where the artificial intelligence and machine learning is now taking us. It is getting us out of reaction to proactive and allowing us to see these behaviors in a way that we would have never been able to see them before. Excuse me. It is producing more actionable intelligence than we have ever been able to see. So when you start looking at the ability to stop having all of these individual silos, and we can take all of the silos and we can get them in to one platform that has the intelligence behind it and has the ability to provide the artificial intelligence, the machine learning. And again, this is nothing new. It's math. 1 + 1 is always going to equal 2. And if we all believe the science behind math is true and math does not fail us, then we have to understand that while we are just seeing it as an industry and we see this as the bright new shiny object, it's not new. There's nothing to fear by this. This is just something we are finally getting an opportunity to see in the IT industry, in the cybersecurity field, so that we can no longer just stand back to react. We can now become threat hunters. We can go looking for the problems, and we can use the mathematics, the machine learning, the artificial intelligence, and we can have all of this correlative analysis in one platform in a way that we've never had before. And excuse me, everyone, I've picked up a cold in the last 2 days. I apologize.
Thanks, Michael. Gregory?
Hello, everyone. My name is Gregory Milis, and I'm a CTO of RFA. We are an outsourced IT provider and also the managed security service provider. And today I will speak about what does machine learning and automation means for the MSP or MSSP. So the reason why it is so important is because when you are a service provider, it's extremely important to be able to scale up. And because at some point, you know, you're feeding hundreds of millions of events into your backend systems. So there is really no easy way to correlate those events, to sort through those events, and most importantly, to react to those events, unless you have some kind of machine learning doing this on the analytics side and some kind of automation that can react. So if you kind of look into the amount of events that are being processed, the traditional MSSPs that's using like a SIEM type backend systems, they're really forced, generally speaking, they're forced to scale down the amount of data that they're collecting. So they're limiting the data to the north-south traffic. They're limiting the data collection from the applications. It's simply because they really cannot process data. They're basically choking on it, and they really have no other choice. However, this type of protection, this type of security at this day is basically being like a one-eyed man, because you're really, it's a false type of protection. So, and the Seceon specifically allows us to cover a massive amount of traffic, massive amounts of events that being generated by our customers, while maintaining economics of the solution by not scaling up the analysts, because we don't have to. Because the Seceon is actually our, let's say, level 1, level 2 group of analysts that processes the events, correlates the events, investigates the events for us, brings them together, and allows us to set up remediation rules. So why remediation rules are so important? Why the automation in cybersecurity is so important? Because if you kind of look at the old ways of how traditionally it's been done, let's say you have a SIEM, some kind of intrusion detection of various data coming into a SIEM. So then you have a level 1 analyst, level 2 analyst, potentially level 3 analyst kind of looking through. Let's say the SIEM managed to detect something. It goes through the analyst levels, they investigate, and eventually they decide, you know what, this is bad, so we have to take some action. It can take days. It can take sometimes weeks not just to detect it, but also for the analysts to go through the evidence, to go through the data and decide that they need to take some action, which is in these days and times, it's absolutely unacceptable. With all the countries, with all the governments and the government bodies across multiple verticals, basically tightening up the breach reporting, the laws, it's just becoming very embarrassing for the companies, to spend days on investigating something and then say, you know what, we've been breached, and now we have to report it, we're in newspapers, and so forth and so forth. So right now, if you need a system that processes the events, that brings them together, correlates them, analyzes them, and takes action. And this is really what truly can prevent the company from the data loss, can prevent the company from being breached, from data being exfiltrated. And this is why the automation is becoming an extremely important part of any cybersecurity solution, including for MSSPs or for the internal use for the companies. And it directly correlates to the cost. I mean, with the current shortage of the cybersecurity talent, you will have to spend more and more money on hiring talent, to do level 1, level 2, and especially level 3 investigations, and taking actions. And if you can essentially replace all the majority of this talent with the machine, with the machine learning, it certainly can save you a substantial amount of money, especially if you're a service provider. That's because this is the only way you really can maintain the quality of service and the economies of scale. The mean time to resolution and the mean time to the detection is extremely important for the reasons that I mentioned before, but it also is, today malware is propagated at the speed of light, and let's say if you look at the WannaCry propagation, let's say the companies that it was propagating inside, I mean, they certainly had some security defenses, but those defenses were, I'm sure they had SIEMs, but those defenses and data collection engines, they were passive. So, and hence, by the time they realized that something is going on, investigated it, I mean, they've been already breached and they've been already infected across the majority of the organization. So, let's say, with the WannaCry situation, for example, if you have a solution like Seceon in place, it actually would be capable of detecting it and automatically shutting down the infection sources and triage and contain propagation of the infection inside your network. So this is certainly an extremely important part of the response, of the breaching investigation, of the breach incident response, and the containment. So shortening times to identify and triage any security breach these days is becoming one of the biggest challenges and the biggest issues and the biggest problems in the cybersecurity industry. And addressing this problem or issue is becoming more and more difficult for the traditional solutions. But the solutions that can operate, the machine learning algorithms and can bring together a massive amounts of information, correlate it and analyze it and take action is really what's kind of coming into the focus in automation and the detection space today. And of course, especially if you are a managed security service provider, you want to be able to not just to scale, but also maintain an attractive price point, because no matter, like, let's say, if you have some kind of, science fiction machine learning solution that operates like an artificial intelligence, it's great. But if it costs 10 times as much as, let's say, traditional SIEM solution, you will still have issues advancing this solution to the market, to your clients, especially if your clients in SMB in the lower end of mid-market space, you can't really afford it. So, and it's also a very important part of the economics that the solution that you use has a scale and also has a pricing point that are attractive to your potential customers or even to your organization. So it's basically it's a great advanced solution that can be sold at a very attractive price point because of automation and because of the technology behind it. Thank you.
Thank you, Gregory. Our next panelist, Ron Kuller, CTO of Secure Design, actually could not attend because of family issue. But Sunil will cover the next set of slides. Our next panelist, Sunil.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are. My name is Sunil Kotagiri, and I am a founder of one of the founders of Seceon, and then here at Seceon I focus on the technology and then engineering side of our solution. So what you have heard from my other panelists, as Lalit pointed out, the cybersecurity solutions that are currently in the market have way too many gaps in terms of the silos that they work in. Just focus on the things, one part of the overall security solution. As a result, missing, the most important cybersecurity threats of the digital era today. And as you have heard from Michael, how smart the cyber criminals are getting, how they are leveraging the machine learning techniques to be able to attack the organizations, and then how important it is for the organizations to combat those things with the machine learning techniques. And the machine learning is something, even though you hear machine learning and the AI, you hear more and more these days, it is not something that's come up as it's become prominent recently with all the advent of technologies that are built recently. So how important it is to really use the AI techniques to be able to combat these cybersecurity. So he made the case for that. And Gregory talked about primarily, how these days, how long it is taking for organization to realize that they are breached. Sometimes the mean time to identification, mean time to repair is actually the months, and then even longer. And that is because you have all these silo solutions essentially generating way too many alerts and then way too many events, causing your security operations team to really inundated with lots and lots of alerts and then events, and then why you need some kind of an automated technique behind the working behind on behalf of the SOC team to really analyze all the data and then to really correlate and all. So he made the case for that one. So with that, what I'm going to do is how our Seceon approach. So we took all these three cases into consideration when we built our solution. So we realized that now we cannot be another silo solution just looking at one aspect of the cybersecurity. So in order to be a really effective cybersecurity solution, you have to essentially focus on all the aspects of the enterprise, all the whole environment that we have to focus on. That means we have to collect the information we have to look at the information from the network users and the hosts and the applications, and in order to really do a good job. So that is what we call it as see everything. We not just the endpoint, not just the firewall, not just the network, all of them together. And then the next one is detect the threats that really matter. So we cannot be adding more alerts, more events to the already overtaxed SOC team. So we have to automate that one, provide only those threats that really matter, detect only those threats. That's the second thing that we do. And then it's not just about detecting these threats that matter. It's about detecting these threats real time. So only then you will be able to stop these things and then contain the damage that they would do to your organization. The next one is, it's not just about detecting the threats. It's also about stopping these threats. Before they cause a huge damage to your organization. So these are the three things that our solution focus on. See everything. We recognize, and then we strongly believe that in order to be a very effective cybersecurity, comprehensive cybersecurity solution, so you got to have visibility into every aspect of your organization. The second one is detect the threats that really matter, and then detect them real time. The third one is to stop these threats real time before they cause the damage. So how we do it? What we have is our product has two main components. One is what we call it as what we call a CCE, that is our control and collection engine. This is the component that it's almost like, and you can consider this thing as an edge computing device or a VM that sits close to where the data is really generated, whether this data is your network data in terms of the flows, whether this data is raw packet data that's coming out of your span port or tap port, whether this data is the identity information generated by the Windows AD system, so all your desktops and the laptops, or whether this data is generated by your different applications, whether these are the database applications, web applications, or any of the applications. So this our focus here is, in order to be an effective solution, so as I said, we have to be able to collect a lot of data. So these days organizations are generating, all these applications are generating way too much data. But that doesn't mean that we have to be inundated with all the data. So hence we push this computing to closer to the where the data is generated, so that we can do some intelligent filtering and then summarization at the source, very close to the source, before we haul all that information back to our backend system. We call that is APE, our analytics policy engine. And then this is our big data, fast data system that is built on top of some of the latest technologies of streaming technologies, and then in-memory computing. This is the one that's essentially taking all the data coming from each and every a corner of your organization, and then essentially applying, as Michael pointed out, applying the advanced machine learning techniques to be able to really identify any anomalous behavior, any abnormal behavior that we see with respect to the network behavior, application behavior, and user behavior. And we also have a so once those anomalies are detected, then it goes through what we call them as our threat models. These are essentially the models that are defined to detect the different kinds of threats that are facing the enterprises today. These threats, you can say, the zero-day malware, known malware, whether it is an insider or malicious insider or negligent insider, inadvertently or maliciously, stealing the information or uploading the information or copying the information. Or is it a compromised credential, so that your credentials are compromised and then available in the dark web, and then people are trying to use those credentials to log into the systems, either through the VPN or once they are inside the system, so logging into the different systems as well, or whether they are DDoS attacks or potential vulnerabilities. These are all the different kinds of threats that we detect, and all those threats are essentially defined through our dynamic threat models by applying the advanced correlations, our patent pending advanced correlation engine. that takes all the information, correlates them over a period of time, and tracks the behaviors, and then it's a sequence of this behavior to be able to identify those threats that really matter, rather than bringing each and every one of these incidents of interest or incidents of compromise, and then causing the alert fatigue at the end. So as you see at the bottom of a small dashboard capture here, so this came from one of our real customer installations. So at the top, what you are seeing is our system has been has monitored, and then about 221 million flows and logs over a period of like 24 hours, out of which we have detected that there are 1,800 internal systems. These are private hosts that our system has monitored and detected, and they all communicated with about 4.4 million external systems. At the bottom left corner, what you see is there are 2.7 million security events, or these are what what are also referred to as IOCs, or incidents of compromise, and these are all the ones that you would otherwise see in the existing SIM solutions. So you would have seen, with all the data that we collected, without the rules and everything defined, you would have seen this many of the security incidents that in that particular environment. The value proposition of our solution, so what our solution with its advanced machine learning, and then also the correlation engine and the dynamic threat models, what we had been able to condense these 2.7 million security events into 22 real threats. These are all the threats that your SOC team needed to focus on. These are all the threats that we have already done by bringing all the information together, by already automatically analyzing all the information, automatically correlating the information as a human would do. If without having our solution, your SOC analyst would have to really look at all these 2.7 million events, identify which one really matters, which one doesn't, correlate them together, see the behavior of these events, and then everything to be able to come up with what is real, what is not real. So that is what our solution does. It essentially acts as a SOC in a box, or acts as your virtual SOC analyst, essentially doing all the automation, all the everything behind the scenes. Our solution is a microservices based solution. What it means is it gives you different deployment options. Whether you wanted to deploy our solution on a bare metal system, or on a virtual machine environment, or in a public cloud environment, for example, whether you are using the Amazon AWS or Microsoft Azure or Google Cloud. So, this, in summary, there are 3 legs to our solution. The first one is our solution gives you the day you have deployed our solution and running within your organization. It essentially gives you the great visibility into what is happening in your environment. What systems are communicating with what systems, how often that they are communicating, what applications that are essentially involved between these 2 parts of your network when they are communicating. That is what we call it as a comprehensive visibility. So we strongly believe that without having a good visibility into overall your environment, you would not be able to combat these security threats in an effective manner. So that is our number one leg of our the one leg of our solution, is helping you really understand your environment, really see where the gaps are, really see what's happening within your environment. That is our comprehensive visibility. And it's actually very intuitive. The visualization aspect that we came up with is very intuitive. It doesn't have to be very complicated. Within 3 clicks, you will be able to get from the topmost level to all the way to the particular device that you might want to really focus on, rather than having to do the pivoting and then all that. So the things that are searching and then everything that you would have to do with our other solutions. The second one is detect the threats that really matter and then detect them real time. And then if you see our solution, all these alerts that we bring it to the forefront, these are all very easy to understand, single line alerts, and then with the detailed explanation about what has been found and then what was the reason behind it. But we also provide ability to drill down further and really understand, if you're really interested in understanding how our system arrived at this single line alert, and all the reason behind it. The third one is the contain the threats that really matter. So essentially, I will give you some examples. For example, if our system identifies that there is a employee that is involved in a malicious activity, our system has capability to go and then automatically disable that particular user by communicating with your Windows AD systems. And then we give the power back to our SOC analysts. So either SOC analyst can configure our system to take the action automatically during certain times of the day, and then have our system give the power back to the user so that they can take the action manually by themselves. So you have an option to do this remediation. Similarly, if we detect that there is a particular system that has been infected by a malware, and then our system immediately goes and then quarantines that particular host by applying the policies in your firewall, so that every communication that that originates from this particular system to the outside world is completely blocked. So that way you will have an opportunity to go and then really see what's happening before that system is allowed to be communicated to the rest of the world or the rest of your organization as well. So the comprehensive visibility detect the threats that really matter real time, not after weeks, not after months, not after days, but real time. That is very, very critical these days, because the breaches happen in minutes and then exfiltration happens within immediately after that. The third one is the contain the threats as soon as we detect them. So how do we do it? So this is luckily for us, there has been quite a bit of innovation happened within the industry, in the open source community, by some of these great social networking companies. So we were able to take advantage of the lot of great advanced in-memory computing, distributed computing, and then stream processing, and then big data analytics to be able to really build our platform so that it's not built on the old technologies, new technologies. Hence, we are able to achieve what we are able to achieve compared to some of our competition, the systems that have been there very long time, that are not built on these technologies. Hence, they are really, really struggling to be able to really scale, really distribute, really detect these threats real time. So that's I think that's the summary of what our solution in terms of how we approach it, detecting the threats real time, helping you analyze, visualize all your environment and the threats real time, and also contain the threats real time. Lalit, so the next one, I'm going to be also touching upon the use cases on the compliance front, how our system would help organizations to comply with the regulations and then on some compliance requirements. So we not only focus on real-time threat detection and the containment. Our system, the mere fact that it actually monitors the whole environment of your organization, it has a visibility into lot of different aspects, what's happening, hence able to help you comply or come up with the compliance reports or the analysis, or help you get access to the data that will help you during the compliance audits and things like that. So there are three things that requirements that we focus on. One is the NIST, the second one is GDPR, and then the third one is the HIPAA. These are the three compliance regulation requirements that our system can help the enterprises with. So here, as you can see, the NIST framework as it defines with respect to the security. Any product should be able to identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. So if you map all these things to what we do in terms of the identification, our solution, at the moment you install it, it is able to detect all the inventory of your host, the inventory of your users, because we are collecting the information from the network and then collecting the information from the Windows ID and the logins and everything. So it gives you great visibility into the user network and then host inventory, and then give you very comprehensive reports in terms of really managing and then getting visibility into all the inventory. The next one is the protection. Our advanced machine learning, our advanced correlations help you not only detect the threats, but also contain these threats real time, but not after weeks or months. It's real time threat protection. And then detection. So our solution, it's not just one type of a threat. For example, if you look at the UEBA solution that just focus on one type of a threat, or if you look at endpoint security that focus on the virus detection, our solution gives you a comprehensive threat models. We have 30 different threat models that are designed around detecting the different kinds of or different strains of the threats that are impacting organizations today. And then in terms of the responding, our solution does the automatic remediation. So it's not only detecting them, but it's also remediating these sets real time through our containment model. And then in terms of the recovery, as I mentioned before, the moment we detect any threats, whether it is related to the hosts or users, it immediately quarantines those entities that are impacting the solution, that are impacting your environment, and then you can go and then really dig deeper and then recover whatever the assets that might have been impacted or whatever the users that may be causing the trouble. So our system, our solution fits really, really nicely with the NIST security framework. It covers all the aspects of our this framework very, very well. The next one is the GDPR. This is essentially coming into the light, and then all the organizations, especially in the EU, are mandated to comply to this GDPR compliance requirement. So if your organization is involved with any businesses with any of the EU organizations, you are required to comply this requirement as well. Or if you are helping the organizations in the EU, our solution can certainly help with those compliance requirements if that is something that you are focusing on. So if you look at the GDPR, if you look at each and every aspect, there are about 12 different measures that one has to comply. But holistically, if you look at any kind of a compliance model, it comes down to three different things: the who is owning, what systems, the responsibility of each and every individual on a day-to-day basis from the operations point of view, and also when there is an audit, what kind of an evidence that you needed to provide. Our solution, it may not necessarily help you set up your processes and then policies. That's where the ownership and then responsibility of ownership comes into the play, but it plays a strong role on the evidence part. So it it helps you really get visibility into whether the only authorized users are able to communicating with the host that they are supposed to be communicating with, who is copying what files. So that's another another evidences that you can prove later on. Similarly, our daily reports, weekly reports help you, are centered around this evidence of who is touching who, what systems that they are communicating with, and these are all the very important aspects when there is an audit, when you have to really provide a compliance. And then our solution is very well positioned because again we have the visibility into overall your whole environment. Hence, you will be able to leverage all the data that that our solution has collected, leverage all the reports that our solution provides, and then leverage all the analysis reports that we have to be able to come up with any compliance requirements with respect to the evidence and the GDPR. Yeah. So the next one again, this is the Health Insurance Portability and then Accountability Act, HIPAA. This is a big thing here in US, and then any businesses that are working with our US healthcare industry have to comply these things as well. Our solution again has a great visibility into some of your environment, and then if you look at all these data governance, audit trailing, access control, account management, and then every aspect of these measures that you are seeing centered around the HIPAA is something that we cover today, because this is all centered around how your accounts are created, which we have an visibility into because we are communicating with your identity management systems, and then your so who is logging in when, the login. So we collect that information, and then we have that information available through our reports in terms of hire in, hire out kind of reports. And then what hosts each and every user is really touching, whether they are touching the databases, whether they are touching the files that they are not supposed to be touching. We have visibility into those things. And then you can also define the policies using our whitelist and everything. So and then we also have audit trail in terms of our DMCA report, asset groups, whitelist, and all that stuff. So our solution does have very strong it's very strong in helping organizations comply with the HIPAA. So if you look at some of the solutions that are out there, so they are just focusing on one aspect of it, and then you have to go to the other solutions. So our solution gives you the comprehensive visibility, and then hence providing you all the ability to cover all the measures of the HIPAA compliance as well. So that covers what I wanted to discuss. So.
Yeah, thanks, Sunil. Let me actually look through the chat window to see if there are any questions, and I think there are quite a few. So the first question is, ransomware was directly affected to our OS. So how they enter into private network? Is it a fault from firewall, hardware, data center security, or any other reason? Who wants to take that? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I can take that. So that's a great question. So one of the challenges of detecting these ransomware today is the behavior of this ransomware. So there are different strains that come up every day, and then the way our solution really detects these. We believe that in order to detect these ransomware, so you got to definitely monitor the host activity and also the network activity, and then also use the machine learning to be able to detect the behaviors, because the techniques are changed every day. So if you have one particular technique defined in your detection model, and then people are going to be able to beat that one by coming up with a different thing. So for example, if somebody said, okay, I'm going to detect the encryption, the files as a method of detecting this ransomware, but then the attackers are changing their behavior as well. So the only way that you can really effectively combat this ransomware is you have to really look at the network behavior and also the host behavior. When we say host behavior, it's not just it's what file, what kind of system calls that they are making, what kind of files that they are accessing, what kind of network access that they are performing. When you detect these things, so when you combine these anomalous, the machine learning techniques along with some correlation of the different things that are happening around this particular host, then you will be able to detect these ransomware and then zero-day malware very effectively, rather than using a signature-based detection models, and then which are bound to fail with when attacker detects that, okay, or comes up with a new technique.
Thanks, Sunil. There's one more question. Does the product contain vulnerability scanning feature? There's a corollary to that. Real-time scan of threats is definitely good, but if you're able to find weaknesses in our network, that may provide a better protection. Sunil, do you want to take that as well?
Yeah. So I'll take the first question. So the first question was about whether our solution includes the vulnerability scanning solution. No, our solution today doesn't. It does not have a method for you to really have our solution go and then scan a whole of your network and then each and every one of your applications or hosts to be able to help you come up with a vulnerability report. There are a lot of solutions that are out there that are very effective, and then so we thought the value that we provide beyond these solutions is not that great. When we find that something that is missing, that's when we thought we will get into that one. So you have the Metasploit, you have OpenVAS, and then you have a lot of other solutions that will help with the vulnerability scanning. But however, our solution has a method of detecting if somebody is trying to leverage or take advantage of the vulnerabilities present in an application, or whether we detect a system that may be doing the scanning and then getting into the systems using the vulnerabilities, whether these vulnerabilities are SQL injection methods, or whether these vulnerabilities are some of the things that are available with the web pages and all that stuff. To answer it, in summary, we don't do vulnerability scanning, but we have our solution has the method of detecting the vulnerability exploit threats. So what was the next question?
You answered both, Sunil. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, so there's another question. What are some of the real threats found by this platform in your deployment? Gregory, do you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. So we've detected actually a number of different threats, external and surprisingly internal. So we detected various attacks that were trying to exploit our system from outside. We have detected some very sophisticated Trojans on our clients' networks that were basically designed to sit dormant and deliver ransomware from time to time. But I would say the most surprising to us was not even that. Most surprising to us was the fact that we detected a number of the internal threats. We detected how the employees were breaking company policies and exfiltrating the data from the company. And this is actually a very substantial threat in general to the company. You know, and we need that you need to have precautions to contain data leaks. But it's also one of the most difficult threats to contain because of the, you know, multitude of different vectors how the data can be exfiltrated these days. And to us, that was one of the most important blind spots that the Seceon was able to shine light on.
Thank you, Gregory. There's another question. What are some of the different tools that you use, and how is your experience of those versus Seceon OTM? Michael, do you want to take that?
Sure can. So over the years, as we continue to try to evolve our managed security services practice, we've used many different tools. We have worked with Logarithm, we've worked with Splunk, we have worked with several others. And what we found, while they were good at what they were doing, they didn't give us the overall holistic picture of everything that we were looking for. And a lot of those tools were still statically driven by signatures. They weren't working fast enough. They weren't giving us the intelligence, the in-depth need to discover what was happening in the environment. And what we have found with Seceon is it's a very, very easy deployment. It's not as difficult to set up as a Splunk, so the ease of deployment was much better. And when you started looking at a Logarithm or some of these other more SIM-based products, it's great for after the fact. It was wonderful for going back in time to discover or resolve something that was happening for 6 months. But again, what we want and where this industry desperately needs to go is to stop being reactive and start being proactive. And that's what I think the Seceon product has done for my business and our team. It has taken us to a very proactive state.
Thank you, Michael. There's another question. Will deployment of such a solution impact the host performance due to the background processes that are monitoring the host? Sunil, do you want to take that?
Absolutely. So this is one problem that we have identified from the day one with the current solutions that are out there in the market is there is something called the agent fatigue. Essentially, you are putting tons and tons of agents. Different kinds of agents. One type of an agent could be in a virus scanner. Another kind of an agent could be in an inventory or patch management. Other one could be for helping you with the DLP. So way too many agents are based solutions that are out there, and then it also the management of these agents running on all your hosts is a challenging to keep in them, making sure that they are up to date and then everything. And then the second one is how it affects impacts the performance of that system where the agent is running. So our method from the day one is we cannot impact the performance of the end device, and then we should not be in line. So if to all intents and purposes. So that way, we are less intrusive to your environment. So we are sitting on the side collecting the information from all the systems. Most of the servers and everything, they will all be sending the data using the syslog, and then when it comes to the desktop and the laptops, that is the case, we will be using the Windows collection, remote Windows collection, rather than actually sitting on the system to be able to really collect the information. So that's one might ask. So if that is the case, would you not miss certain very critical things only that you can only get when you are sitting on the system as an agent? But we believe that with our ability to, that is true if you are a system that's actually looking at only one silo. The good thing about our solution is we are not just relying on the information coming from only from that system. We are relying on the information that we are collecting from the network and then the firewall and then all the other systems. When we bring all this information together, our story becomes a lot more clearer compared to having an agent sitting on it and then collecting the information and then giving the information only about that particular host, not about the overall context. So no, we don't sit on the we don't have an agent on the end device, and then we do the remote collection of the information remotely. Hence, we don't affect the performance of your end devices.
There's another question about does the product have feature of network access control? Let me take that. So yes, network access control is one of the key features of the product. As you can see, the policy whitelisting and who accesses what, and both internally as well as externally, and what needs to be stopped as unauthorized access can be all part of the tool. So network access control is pretty much part of the tool. It does discover all of the assets, network devices, endpoints, servers, workstations coming in automatically, and determines what policies should be allowed from whitelisting perspective, and also allows you to specify what are the, based on global threat intelligence, what are the blacklisted slides, what are the blacklisted URLs, and other external communication that you don't want with particular domain, particular countries, particular subnets, and so on and on. So all that is part of the tool. I think we are pretty much out of the time. There's more and more questions coming in. For any additional questions, please do send the questions to the email marketing@jktech.com. I just want to take this time to thank all of the participants, thank JKTech, our partner, for sponsoring this webinar, and definitely want to thank all of our esteemed speakers for taking their time and talking about this solution and answering all the questions. Thank you, everyone.